I'm not afraid to sit here and be a, like just sit here and learn.
We need more people that will say that and say, hey, like, I love all people. I have no hate, and I have never done anything to dismantle white supremacy.
Exactly.
I love black people, and I have never done anything to examine my unconscious bias. Like, you can be both of those. So this is your time.
Because I'm doing it too.
Me too.
Let Andrew and I be the power of example right here.
Totally.
Let us. You guys are coming on a journey along with this right now to figure out all that lives inside of me. Because it wasn't until I got started with Wheels to Walking, and it wasn't until all you guys started calling me out in the comment section about how much of an ableist I was, did I realize I was even an ableist. I didn't even know what that word meant. I had no idea. And then once I learned what that word meant, and then I realized that I had internalized ableism. I had a lot of hate towards myself because, one, I didn't like me, but I also didn't like disabled people because I didn't want to be a part of that group. I didn't want to be associated with. I thought I was like, go away.
It's a bad thing.
You guys are nothing but a bunch of losers. Like, you guys are all pathetic, and like everyone wants to help you, and I'm not like you. And like, I remember feeling that way. And it's funny because everyone in this community who's called me out and has set me straight, like, I've learned to realize, like, yo, like, I have some deep-seated stuff, and I wonder that with racism too. Like,
totally.
Am I, without even knowing it, maybe a low-key racist?
If you are white, you are.
Yeah.
And let's all raise our hands right now.
Hey.
I am a racist. Like, can we please do that? Because until we can name it, we can't change it. Until we can own it, we cannot move forward. And so I think that that's really important. Like, we're laughing, but like,
it's a fact. It's true.
Say it. It's like saying, if you want,
I almost don't want to say it.
Anything that you want to change in your life, you have to say it out loud.
I almost don't want to say it because I don't want it to be true. You know, like, to say I'm a racist feels uncomfortable. Like, I am uncomfortable saying that because I don't almost want it to be true.
Yeah.
Because I don't see myself as hateful. I don't see myself like that.
Let's get into this, actually, because we're 14 minutes in, and I feel like we haven't really said anything.
What an intro.
Let's go. So, Aaron Lee, give us some history.
We need some black history. How did Africans get to America?
Well, I would just, any listener out there that is like, this is all new to me, or any listener that is like, hey, y'all are so behind, so thank you for both of you hanging in. Many of you are listening who are ahead of me, way more than I do. But there is like a base level that we all have to start about if we're going to talk about white supremacy, if we're going to talk about the history of our country, is we have to say, yes, it is true that white people who were living on the stolen land of America decided that they wanted to build the wealthiest nation in the world. And so in order to do that, took ships to Africa, kidnapped people, doctors, nurses, architects, engineers, mothers, fathers, children, and they brought them to America, a place that they did not speak the language, a place that they could not escape from, had no means to escape from, and forced them to build our country with no overhead and all free labor. That is why we are the wealthiest country in the world. And so if anyone disagrees with that, it's going to be really difficult to hang with any of the other discussions because
But isn't that just a fact, though? Like, how can you disagree with that?
You could disagree with the fact that we're the wealthiest because we're in a shit ton of debt. We're in a lot of debt.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
thanks to the Corona economy.
Yes, never mind. But
at one time, we are a global superpower for sure.
Yes, that is
the USA is very powerful.
That is how, in a very short amount of time, our country went
from pilgrims
to being a superpower. Now, that if you disagree with that, like, I would say, hey, like, that's okay, kind of, because your history books didn't teach you that in school. In America, we have a very whitewashed history in our elementary schools, through high school, through college, all of that. And so unless you were lucky enough and blessed enough to have an African-American teacher,
who taught you outside.
Which there's a lot of reasons why many of you did not, which I can get into later if you would like me to. But you don't know this. So one great book to look at is Stamped from the Beginning. It's an amazing book. And it will really help you to understand the history of racism in America and racist ideas in America. So, but before we can go anywhere else, we have to agree this is how Black people came to be in America in the beginning. This is what our country is built on. Our economy has been built on the backs of free labor of African American people. So
Agreed.
Yeah, and isn't it also that like law and law enforcement was made to I don't
control Black
again I don't
people.
understand, like wasn't there something where it's like they're freed but they're actually only 3/5 of a man, but there's actually special laws, and then if you break the law then you go back to being a slave again, so it's like you're freed, not really, psych. Like isn't there this like I don't even understand that. I've heard stuff about this but I don't even know.
I would encourage anyone to look that up, like how much of a person Black people were considered to be. A lot of this was for control in government. That is why the southern states had more control in government in the early years, is because they had more slaves, and they counted slaves as people, so that you had a greater population, so that you had more representatives in government, but they were not allowed to vote. So,
or if they did vote, it was only like 3/5 of a vote.
No.
They were not
3/5
slaves.
compromise or something else.
Slaves
Okay.
were not allowed to vote, but yet white owners
Would count them.
They were counted
As part of the census.
So that's why there was more representation by southern states in the government. So, but that's neither here nor there. But as far as the history of law enforcement, a lot of people have asked me. I was asked just this past week by a sweet woman who she said, "Are there good cops and bad cops?" Like I'm really genuinely. She was leaning in. She genuinely was leaning in and be like, I don't understand this. I've always been taught that, that cops are good. And that is true. I have some loved ones, friends, dear friends whose relatives are cops. And right now it's a scary job to have, to be honest with you.
Well, quick question. Couldn't it be that the reason why I think a lot of white people think that all cops are good cops is because they've
I don't think anyone thinks all cops are good cops.
Let me rephrase
That's
that.
a pretty big stretch.
Let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
That all cops have good intentions or whatever it is.
Yes.
And I think it's because they've only had positive experiences. The only negative experience they've gotten is maybe a traffic ticket they didn't want. Like, oh man, my tags are expired. Oh, $100.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Like that's the only bad experience they've had. All the other experiences involved like security and protection and, a dream job or whatever.
If you're hearing right now people saying like, I've seen a lot of like defund the police. So you're like, why do we want to defund the police? Oh my gosh, we would be so unsafe. This is why people are saying this. The history of the police is that there was no police in America, no law enforcement, until slaves started escaping. So they established slave patrols. These men, their full-time job was to track down Black people who had escaped slavery and bring them back to their masters.
So like track them down.
So they were trackers. They would find them. So you have this group of people whose their full-time job is to harass Black people. So when slavery became illegal, you would think that job would no longer be needed. But instead, that was law enforcement. So what you have is you have slavery becoming illegal, but the roots of our police is slave patrol. Now, times have changed. People have become more open-minded.
And how long ago was that? I mean,
not long ago.
Yeah, that's the kind of biggest thing to keep in mind is like that wasn't that
We
long
talking
ago.
like 150 years ago? Not that long ago?
not
like
that-
like 50? Like
I don't know the
80
exact-
years?
I don't know the exact
I am
years.
not an expert, and I
right,
wish that I knew the answer to that question.
But if
It's
you look
not
at the
been that
grand
long.
scheme of history, we
Not
haven't
long.
had much time
A
since then,
few-
and especially since
only a few generations.
because just because slavery
Really?
became illegal, luckily, Abraham Lincoln, Civil War, all that, a lot of people do understand, that aspect of it.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people forget that even after slavery was illegal, we still had segregation. Hope you enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full episode, you can click right here. If you want to subscribe to the channel, you can click right here. If you want to watch more clips, we got 2 more right over here.